Country Speedway is up next. Before we get into the movement here, I just want to show a little bit of a lay of the land for these gems that we're going to get coming out here. What that looks like. So you've got that 2, and that 5, and that 1. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of an awkward angle to come out of. Looks like that. So hold square, and I like to hold left. As the camera starts to turn, shift from left to up with it. And then I like to run and kind of, let my momentum carry me past this, and Sparks will get this. You can do a spin jump. If you don't like the spin jump, you just go around. Do be careful here, I will show. Zoe's hitbox is kind of big, so do your best to not go through. You could even, just don't even have to hold left there. Spin jump up through twice, essentially, and you come back and you line up pretty nicely here. You usually do a little bit of jump to help go. From here, we're going to turn and jump and fall down like that. If, you can use the camera buttons to line you up too as you fall. You can also glide into it and aim and shoot. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. If you hit a bunny like that, you don't have to go too deep back here. Just hesitate, wait for Sparks to catch up. Getting these 2 eggs is a cinch. Down left out of this, X, square. Right out of that, and on in. Clean take, looks something like that. This, not that. That's a fine fodder to get if you need it. I was at blue. Should be comfortable enough from there. If I was on green, I might think about getting those, but not my favorite ones to get, just because of a little bit of waiting. Coming up, I'll take you through the standard race first. We're going to try to do the quick little menuing here. First lap is going to be a little bit more beginner friendly. I'm going to show you just kind of what to do. You can go through here and pick this up. Charge out of it. I shoot this here kind of out of habit. If I really cared to use it, I would use it on the guy in first place. So after I pass this gold plane. This is another race where you don't really have to worry too much about winning. As long as your movement's okay and you practice this a couple times. Don't go up for that second star. It's not 100% needed. Some people like to do it. We used to do it. And there you go. Quick note, I will say, is be careful in general on coming through here. Oftentimes a plane is coming through here, not in the first lap, but usually in the second and third lap. It's going to vary depending on how well you do. It can knock you down. You might not hit that. This is kind of true of every single barn you go through. Past the first lap, there's just a chance that some guy is coming through. And then for this, try to drag out the star power pretty late before you charge. I find it really easy to get a stutter pogo if you're too far back. This is a hilly kind of terrain, so I like to be on the other side of the hill. I would say I started this a little bit early for my liking, just at a glance. But it worked out. This one lap. This one will be a little bit more advanced. You can go around like that. You literally just hold up left, like so. You can scoot your way around on the outside of here. You kind of need to hug this. I'll demonstrate another method for this later, but you can see here, I basically bonk and I do a little bit of a flop. That's perfectly acceptable. Ideally, you kind of do a flap into it. Which you kind of see me start to do. But you take whatever you get. Again, staying low, really kind of try to push your flight speed. Be careful with that ring that I just passed. That's a very difficult, it's a very easy ring to mess up on. Here, if you're being really, really fast, there's a chance you kind of will charge through this guy at the same time as you kind of would want to glide through this. And it results in you not getting the supercharge or super glide power up. So you may want to slow down a little bit, or push yourself, and you're gonna have to kind of get a feel for that yourself. You can go lower here and then get a flap up. It's also viable. Do a pogo, high up pogo. Again, pogo late there. Really maximize this star power up. You could do it even a little bit later than this. And then here I demonstrate there is this plane you can stand on, and then there's where you flop. We are going to pogo off of this if you want. You don't have to. I'm not your mom. Be careful. If you go too low, you will get a permaflop. It's going to look something like that. And then on the third lap, this is actually a common spot to get a plane coming through. Typically that gold plane, I think. And to start a new lap, you can go the same way you kind of started. You kind of do need to rub up against this. You can't. It's very easy to be too left, but if you kind of loop into it and out without bonking, I'll demonstrate it a couple times here, just like so. You can see I basically brush up against it, or you can just go over and through. Take your pick. So that one was a lot more left, and I was still able to get away with it. Yeah, do this, I'd say just 3 times. Don't do it any more than that. In your run. Obviously, practice is more. And then win. Here, you'll skip through this. Skip through Sparks. You'll get your Dan egg. And then we'll go and do the time trial here. So for time trials, I'm actually going to show 3 routes. 2 I'm going to call standard routes. The first one being slightly easier to handle than the second one. And then the third one I'll show is going to be the Saboom route, kind of more the IL route. So this first one is, I call it the Derek route because that's what Derek does. The beginning of these first 2 routes, the standard routes, all start this same way. You just go straight through the rings, and you get these first 3 guys. Derek's route gets this 4th guy, and it's a little bit easier getting these cows this way. Be careful of him turning. And be careful to get that guy turn up enough. This is kind of like the easiest version of this route. And it's about a second slower than the quote-unquote easiest version of the other standard route that I'll be showing after this. Not initially after this. So about a second. Now I'm going to show a variation of this Derek route that pushes it and goes a little bit faster. So again, the beginning starts the same, through those cow islands stays the same. And when we get to here, it's going to get a little bit different. And I will point out, actually, with this, one tip I can offer is to go a little bit right. You see me do that here? So I can get a good turn on this plane, so that when I hold up when I go up, I have enough time to get him and then turn back. Now here's the first difference. If you're fast enough, you can actually go under and just smack into that guy. I don't even think my flame gets him. And then the alternative is you charge and you jump late to get him. And then it ends you slightly earlier. So you see the original route, beginner friendly. Got a 42. This is a 40-50. I actually think this is the fastest, like, standard route version you can actually do. And so those are the Derek route alternatives. This is the quote-unquote standard route that most people do. Again, the fly-in with the rings starts the exact same for these. So we're going to pick up. You get the first 3 guys on the mowers, and then you turn in. So this is one of the tricky parts. There are 2. This is probably the trickier part. It can be very easy to accidentally pop up, or even kind of just miss this guy, or even bonk on this ledge. So note when I approach, I've kind of pushed myself up. So I'm jumping, holding right. So I don't even have much of any down input. But I use that upward momentum to get over this, and then I press down and flame so that I'm facing down and I don't pop up. I do an okay job in this instance. You can actually connect with the ground a lot quicker. Yeah, I let the momentum from going from charge into collide carry me up. And again, press down to move up slightly more if you need to. And here's the other difference. We're going through the tunnel here. This guy, you should have plenty of time to hit him. Now this is the other tricky part, is that little turnaround sometimes. Especially kind of if you're not familiar with that guy coming out of the little tunnel area. 41-20. So it wasn't perfect, but I think the standard Derek route got 42. This one got about 41. I'm gonna go back and talk about this really quick. So again, this is another one where I press up to get a good transition down very quick, and I go a little bit wide to make this turn just even easier. If you're a little bit slower, this guy can be out further. Just like so. Oop, there we go. Skip through. Now, alternative for this standard route. Everything, this is after the tunnel, after you fly up and hit that first plane. You can do like you did before. You can charge here and do a late jump to get this guy. Same sort of transition, but you hold that and you land on that little lip, bar, whatever you want to call it. You can do both of those at the same time. You can do one or the other. So 40-83. So standard Derek route with the extra stuff got you about 40-50. These aren't hard, rough numbers. I haven't necessarily tried to completely optimize everything, but it does seem like the Derek route with those optimizations seems a little bit faster to me. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for you. Play around with these, find out what works for you. The last thing I will note, and I don't show it off, it's a little tricky, but all of these cows on these islands can be got without gliding. You have to just jump very late. It's a little bit tight. It's not something I necessarily recommend for standard running. So here is the Saboom route, the IL route, you'll more or less hear it called. This will save a couple of seconds. It's probably the hardest Speedway time attack to do in this game. So I'm going to take it slow, and then afterwards I will walk you through everything. So immediately you can see I'm holding up and left. I want to cut my height a little bit. Now, it's a little bit hard to see. There are some polygons here. You want to land on the upper section. You can almost think of it as like a muffin or something. This will drop you. There's kind of some slope here. And we're going to do a quick pogo. Note when I start flaming. It's basically right as I touch this, even a little bit earlier. And I don't do a whole lot of adjustment. I let the momentum from the transition from charge to glide carry me into that guy, and I'm turning the entire time, trusting that my flame is going to swipe across and get him. For the second guy, note I keep the exact same plane, don't adjust up or down, and I flame. Now I've already started to go down because I want to go under. I know I'm going to trust this, that my flame swipes down. Under. So pretty late in there. Get this, immediately shoot up, but you also want to be careful not to shoot up too quick. So even before I get that guy, I am, really far back. I'll take this from the top here. But this one I feel like I've actively gotten more set. Might be worth it to grind them out again. Just like so. Into that. Here, stay low. I like to just dip back up and attack. Dip back low, attack. This one you could want to kind of try to be greedy with. There is a cycle. You can get filtered pretty easily. Into this. This guy right here, I would prioritize. He can be front. Depending on how fast you are, he might be too far gone already. You can gauge how well you've done your opening. Depending on his position, you'll get accustomed to that. I'm going to sometimes swoop out left and then back in because I want to make sure I get all three of these guys. So back up here. So you can see I let myself kind of go straight and then came back. So now this next part is a little tricky as well. Ideally, this flame gets both the tractor guy and this cow, and you can cut maybe a slightly better line. Worst case scenario is you charge through him like I'm about to do. But my biggest tip is to watch my inputs here. So I jump from afar, transition into my glide, and then flame, kind of like I said, in the hopes of getting this. This is another one where you don't want to pop up too much. You'll slow down. It's not going to be the end of the world in an RTA setting or a standard run setting. If you pop up too much. This wasn't perfect. This could have been a little bit smoother of a transition to the ground. But this is just fine as long as you haven't messed up anything else. And again, the more you push, the easier some of the later cycles will be. So that's why it's beneficial. Then same sort of thing right there. Just make sure you're going straight down into it. Do be careful with this geometry. Sometimes what can happen is you charge too early. You can almost think of this as almost like another muffin or a diamond gem. This is a little sloped. It's not as bad as like the beginning, but what can happen is you can land here and that will ramp you up. And so you'll kind of miss the flat spot up top and you'll end up kind of landing here. And I think it oftentimes will transition you straight into a glide instead of the smooth charge that you want, like that. Now, if you screwed up not the cow that we just did, but the cow before that, or I guess even that, these last two guys will be a little bit further up. So you just need to know and get familiar with, if you've done well, they're going to be about here. Transitioning from one to the other is actually pretty smooth. It doesn't matter where they are along this track, of course. But here's a pretty standard jump over. Then we're gonna just kind of jump through these cows. This is pretty easy. Now here, this is a slightly tricky part. It's not too bad. What we're gonna want to do is kind of go a little bit wide, and we're gonna want to hit the cow and end up in front, charging through, of this. I should say, I guess, technically behind. We don't want to pass this chimney. So you can see I go really far left just to make sure I hit that. You can technically go behind it too as well. I think you just jump. Maybe that's more comfortable for you. I like this just because the angle into this helps me turn better. You can also bonk on this, which is worst case scenario. Now here, I like to play this very high. There are a couple different ways you can handle this guy, but note I turn in and go down and try to flap up and cut back in. Flame that guy and land and do a quick transition, kind of lining up with this corner so I can make it to there. I'm going to back up here just a little bit. You can also turn down early and flap into this. I used to do that. I actually find this to be a little bit more consistent. I'm actually not sure on speed. Seemingly it's faster to do it this way, but you might find it easier to be lower. Hold up and left, flap, flame, and then turn. Again, you have to be confident that you're going to flame through these guys so that you can move on to the next obstacle. There's no really like it takes a lot of getting used to with this route. Now, if all has gone well, you'll start the same way. You'll come to this part the same way you started. You're going to make sure you land on the flatter side. Come through. Again, same plane. You can hit that guy. Come through. Early flame here. Make sure you hit that guy as early as possible. Let's even look at where I flame here. Honestly, I think I could have flamed earlier. Did I? Where's my circle input? Oh, maybe I started earlier. Hold up. Yeah, okay, it's back here. I'm a clown. There it is. Look at that. Look, I'm barely out of the barn. Not even out of the barn. Because remember, it's gonna stay with Spyro's head. It's gonna flame into him. If you made a bad mistake, such as this cow, missing one of these cows, maybe you have to go back for that cow. Say you missed that second to last cow. You would get this cow, you would do a counter or a clockwise turn here, go to that cow, and come back. What would end up happening is any sort of big mistake like that, you're gonna have to learn how that affects these last two planes. Skip this star, charge straight down, and jump into it. He'll be like, more right here. What'll happen is he'll be too far out for when you hit this star. You'll end up completely missing him. And you'll maybe just get this last guy. So here's a mostly clean take. Show off some slop. The note there, he was really far forward. I still made it work. That was supposed to be one take. I'm sorry. We'll just go back far enough. Very far forward. Still made it work. Note, I popped up a decent bit there. Popped up a decent bit there. Very safe. I just said I took it very safe. So I went more right for those guys than I probably needed to, but it was just to be safe again. And then I actually missed this guy. I completely missed the star. I putz around for like far too long trying to get this guy, but backups for if you miss these early guys will be towards the end, even that guy. If you miss some of the earlier tractors, mind you don't want to miss the last two or last three tractors. If you miss some of the early tractors, you will be able to get them right here. You would just go right there. Pretend like I got everything here, just kind of trying to show through the motions. These are the last two normally, and then, you know, you just keep following down the line right here. As many as you did miss. Now, if you were to have missed this plane, that one went through the bridge, you can alternatively pick him up here and just go very wide. You don't need to glide in there. If you were to miss, I'll skip one of those. If you were to miss this guy, you can just cut wide. These are the last three. You don't want to miss those. Like I said, any earlier ones will be gotten. They look something like this. Again, pretend like I got that. You just cut out here. So go on back. Pick up what you missed. And then if you miss one of the cows, you'll probably miss this one. You can just go around. Sets you up nicely to pick up the ring as well. Depending on how big your mistake is, something like that, you'll probably just want to go directly at the planes rather than going through the stars. For getting to Hunter, the fastest way is through the race. You're going to want to menu. You have a couple different options as to how you can do this. The fastest way, hold down left and mash square. And before you hit the ground, glide. Bit of an awkward save state.
Spyro, you're not gonna believe.
You can alternatively just mash triangle at the start, turn around, and go on up. I'm not going to show this off. This is pretty straightforward. There's nothing to it. And you know how to leave the level if you're on 1.0 versus 1.1.